Hello brothers and sisters, this is Brother Martin. Welcome to week 11. We're going to learn a little bit about consumer credit and bankruptcy as well. Those two often go hand in hand, and we'll just dive right in. As always, we can scroll down to lesson 11 and see when everything is due. As you can see today, everything is due on Saturday. All the quiz, the activity, the discussion, everything is due on Saturday, which means that during the discussion, your replies and all those things will have to happen before Saturday, so you have a chance to actually reply back and forth with one another. Alright, let's take a look. First and foremost, we have our reading. So we're going to talk a little bit about consumer debt. It's going to include some details such as the debt service ratio, which is looking at how much debt you have relative to your monthly income, usually expressed as a percentage. We'll also have some information about consumer credit protection laws for credit cards, knowing what your net worth is. Net worth is really looking at your liabilities and subtracting, or taking your assets rather than subtracting your liabilities. So, for example, if your house is worth $300,000 but you still owe $250,000, then you would only have $50,000 coming from your home. You would add to that the value of any cars. If you have other assets that could be of use, such as bank accounts or retirement accounts, and then subtracting outstanding liabilities like student loans or credit card bills. What's left over is your net worth. And then understanding debt consolidation loans. They use a very particular word here. It says are theoretically advisable when dealing with credit card debt. I want to point out that many of my clients who took out consolidation loans didn't do anything to change the behavior that led them to having excessive amounts of debt anyway. And so all they did is just kind of push the reset button, took money out at a lower interest rate, but because they didn't change the behavior in 2 or 3 years, they were right back where they were before, with high levels of debt on their credit card or their line of credit. So you've really got to address what it is that's affecting you and why you are spending the way that you are. So often a consolidation loan is not helpful, although there have been a few rare moments when we have recommended it to a particular client. All right. Once you've done the reading, keep in mind that the reading is what's used for your quiz. So I would keep it up while you take the quiz, make sure you understand the question, and go through the material carefully. Let's go ahead and look at the first assignment that you would submit, and that is our big one for the week. It is 50 points, and there are a few different things here. So the first step, it says, is to research consumer credit and use the reading provided. So the reading provided is referring to what we just looked at, this reading right here. As far as the research goes, I am going to give you some websites that I would encourage you to utilize. So research implies that you're going to read and come up with some information that you would use in writing a thoughtful essay. Thoughtful implies that it may take more than 1 or 2 paragraphs. It's actually a significant portion of the 50 points. So I'm providing some sources for you here. And I will post those along with the announcement. I'd encourage you to use them or something like it. I would encourage you not to use sources that include things like an article written by a credit card company, as there's going to be some fairly obvious bias in there. So consider your source as you do that. Answer the following questions. What are your current practices in regards to consumer credit? What is your research? How has your research this week kind of impacted your view of credit, and when making a change to your own life, what are you going to do about it? It's an essay, so do not just answer the questions. Put them. You're going to answer them, but you're going to do so in an essay format, and you're not just answering each bulleted point. Next step is to use this debt load table to look at how much you should borrow. Obviously, how much you can borrow is relatively based on your income. So, and then write a paragraph. So up here we've got an essay. That implies multiple paragraphs. I would say usually more than 3, even in the case of the number of points that this is associated with. I'm expecting a couple of pages minimum. So, and then this one here is a single paragraph talking about kind of where you're at and what you felt as you look through that information. Now, when you upload those things, you're going to submit the debt load table showing me that you actually completed it with your paragraph and the brief essay. So I should see all of those things when I have the information to grade it. Okay, the next step is the discussion activity. So you're going to start by reading this article that you can pull up here, And the article has quite a bit of information, and then it asks a single question. How will the way you're currently using credit affect your ability to obtain credit in the future? Now, it's really important that you consider what this is 18 points. If you look at the grading rubric down here, 18 points is the initial post. And that's one question. So if you try to answer that one question in one line, I can guarantee you will not get 18 points. This is several paragraphs in responding to the article and thinking about the way you currently use debt, thinking about your credit card debt, student loan debt, if you have a mortgage, if you have debt on a car, and the different things you are currently doing and how that will impact you in the future. Will restrict the debt you can take, will restrict the opportunities that you have because you'll be locked into certain levels of debt. So yes, 18 points is just on that initial post. It should be more than a single sentence. After you do that, respond to two other students. I expect those responses to be done fairly quickly. So the initial post is due on Tuesday, as always, and I would like to see some of those responses at the latest by Thursday to give an opportunity for the initial poster to reply to your comments as well. So, should be fairly straightforward. Read the article, provide a meaningful post that is relative to the point value that's associated with it, and answering the question and talking about what's going on, and discuss it with the other students. The last one is very straightforward. It's our favorite activity, which is to teach a friend. You're going to answer some very specific things, what the principal was that's taught, who the individual was, and what you learned as you worked with them. Consumer credit is one of the biggest issues that I deal with on a daily basis in working with families. I've had more families that have had their lives seriously impaired because of the decisions they make now in regards to the student loans they take out instead of working, or the way they utilize credit cards and the impact that it has on their family. They have done studies that looked at credit card debt, well, just debt in general, and found that those that have high levels of debt, families that have high levels of debt, they fight more about everything, not just about money. They fight more about the quality of their lives, about their kids. It is across the board. They are just not as happy. Likewise, those with higher levels of debt have more health issues in every category, whether it's heart disease and cholesterol, or depression, heart attacks. They're just not healthy, and it's hard on your bodies. It's no wonder that the Lord counsels us in both the Book of Mormon and in the Bible that we should avoid debt. He likens debt unto bondage. In fact, he gives Israel as a nation a very specific commandment. He says that unto other nations that they shall lend, but from other nations they should not borrow. So that's that strict commandment to them to try and avoid that wherever possible. We have been taught likewise by our modern prophets that in some cases, not always, but in some cases, we may consider debt for a modest home, a basic automobile, and for education as appropriate. But it's by no means a commandment to go into debt to do those things. I know many that have been able to get through school without using student loans, to buy vehicles without having a loan on it, and to buy very modest homes with substantial payments. And I know that my family's been blessed for that. I was able to go through school, as was my wife. I worked the whole way through, and we avoided student loans entirely, both my bachelor's and my master's degree. And likewise, I've never had a loan on a car. All of them have been purchased outright, which required a good deal of savings and sacrifice up front to make that happen. Anyway, I want to say that you're doing awesome. I want to bless each and every one of you, and I look forward to seeing your assignments this week.